Election Day. Election Day is a week from tomorrow. I need a medically induced coma that lasts until 2 weeks from tomorrow. At his big rally Sunday at Madison Square Garden, Donald Trump called the Republicans a party of inclusion. Yes, there's room for everyone, not just white bigots, but Christian bigots, Jewish bigots, Muslim bigots. It's a veritable rainbow coalition of intolerance. It was an evening of firsts at Madison Square Garden. It was the first time Donald Trump appeared in New York City without first being issued a subpoena. And it marked the first time his supporters ever entered an historical landmark without first spraying police officers with tear gas. Appearing on Fox and Friends just hours before his father took the stage at Madison Square Garden, Eric Trump promised it would be Woodstock and the Summer of Love, all rolled into one pair of mom jeans and a tank top.
It's going to be incredible to come back to New York City after everything that Donald Trump and your family has been through.
Yeah, guys, I mean, the love in New York is incredible.
Oh, it was just filled with love, just so much love. I'll talk about more of that later. Sunday's event at Madison Square Garden was a peace rally because Donald Trump is a pacifist, which is why all his former generals are warning against his reelection. Here is J.D. Vance with CNN's Jake Tapper insisting that General John Kelly, General Mark Milley, and Trump's former defense secretary have come out against Trump because they all wanted a war during the Trump administration, but he wouldn't give it to them because Trump and J.D. Vance are Buddhist monks.
All those 10 people, including the former vice president, Mike Pence, all of these people have this horribly damaged worldview, and they're all just going after Donald Trump because they want to send people into war? That's really your argument?
Absolutely.
It's not like these are conservative.
Absolutely, that's my
These
argument.
are not conservative
Jake,
Republicans. These aren't conservative Republicans who are concerned about Donald Trump. They're not. That's not right.
All of these people, Jake, they came into office thinking that they could control Donald Trump. That when he said he wanted peace in the world,
Mike Pence thought he could control Donald Trump.
Yes, he did. And when he found out, when he found out that he couldn't, they all turned on Donald Trump.
That's why Mike Pence turned on Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a pacifist, and Mike Pence hates pacifists. When Trump was told on January 6th his supporters were about to kill Mike Pence, he said, so what? Because he's a pacifist, like Jesus, like Gandhi. Donald Trump says, turn the other cheek, Mike Pence. Don't fight. Violence begets violence. Donald Trump is a pacifist who believes all life is precious. That's why he's pro-life. That's why he's proud that he's personally responsible for the overturning of Roe. Even his opponent, Kamala Harris, speaking in Kalamazoo, Michigan over the weekend, had to give it up to Donald Trump and admit that Donald Trump wants all Americans to be pro-life, even if it kills them.
And you know, Donald Trump still refuses to even acknowledge the pain and suffering he has caused. He insists that, and I'm going to quote, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Come on, everybody wanted this? Women are being denied care during miscarriages? Some only being treated once they developed sepsis? They didn't want this. Women have died because of these bans.
Haters gotta hate. Here's former First Lady Michelle Obama speaking in Kalamazoo, Michigan over the weekend, hating, just she's a hater. Here she is challenging Donald Trump's empathy, compassion, and cognitive ability to do anything to protect women's reproductive freedoms.
So do you think Donald Trump is thinking about the consequences for the millions of women who will be living in medical deserts? Does anyone think he has the emotional maturity and foresight to come up with a plan to protect us?
This is the mop-up for October 28th, 2024. November 5th is now a week from tomorrow. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you for finding me. Please like this episode. Hit the like button so I remain in your feed. Please subscribe to my channel and my newsletter. And of course, the best way to help is to share this episode and let me know in the comments section. I read all your comments. Check out shopdavidfeldman.com where you can pick up this, the worst case scenario mug that shows all Kamala Harris needs to do is win the blue wall and she gets to 270. Well, Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was yesterday, Sunday, the day of our Lord. So it was hard to keep religion off the table.
In fact, she is the devil, whoever screamed that out. She is the Antichrist.
She's the Antichrist. I don't know who that is. I think it's Donald Trump's childhood friend or maybe childlike friend. That's right, not his childhood friend, his childlike friend. Then some elegant gentleman named Sid Rosenberg took the stage at Madison Square Garden, reminding the MAGA audience to dial back the heated rhetoric. Otherwise, someone's going to get shot. He's right. You know, Mitch McConnell and Speaker Mike Johnson are warning Democrats. So is J.D. Vance. He's warning Democrats that if anything happens to Donald Trump, it will be because of the vitriol spewed by the Democrats. Here's Sid Rosenberg telling the MAGA crowd, we're better than they are. Let's dial it back.
She is some sick bastard, that Hillary Clinton, huh? What a sick son of a bitch. The whole party, a bunch of degenerates. Lowlives, Jew haters, and lowlives. Every one of them. Every one of them.
Every one of them. On the day of our Lord, that would be Sunday, Sid Rosenberg called upon all of us to show compassion for our nation's veterans.
You got homeless and veterans, Americans, sleeping in their own feces on a bench in Central Park. But the illegals, they get whatever they want, don't they?
Yeah, they get whatever they want. Hey, Sid, what does your breath smell like?
Feces.
Okay, I found this guy, Sid Rosenberg. I didn't know who he was until he spoke yesterday at Madison Square Garden. Apparently, Sid Rosenberg has a radio show on WABC here in New York City, and 5 days a week, Sid Rosenberg performs an important service by putting to rest the horrible stereotype that all Jews are intelligent. And Sid, what's between your ears?
Feces.
Okay, I love the fact that he has no problem using the F word, but he has to say feces. He says feces because that's his, radio training. He knows which words are acceptable and which ones aren't. What a great man. And then, speaking of great men, Rudy Giuliani, who later this week has to turn over all his worldly possessions to the mother-daughter election workers he defamed. Otherwise, he's going to prison. Rudy spoke at Madison Square Garden before Trump got up. Rudy, who says Kamala Harris should be administered a cognitive exam, conducted one on the entire audience.
Remember New Palestine? Remember New Palestine?
New Palestine. I think my cognitive ability is, I don't know. Answer, I give up. Okay, Rudy, what is New Palestine?
When they had the subway derailment, place was horrible.
Yes, Rudy was talking about East Palestine, Ohio. And it wasn't a subway derailment. It was a train derailment. But considering Rudy's delivering this speech while completely passed out after a 3-day whiskey and Adderall bender, I think he's doing pretty damn good. He is. I really do. Okay, and then the soon-to-be homeless Rudy Giuliani confused Joe Biden with something Hillary Clinton said 8 years ago.
It took Biden a year to go there because those people are deplorables.
Oh, okay. Deplorables. Cassidy Hutchinson said she was sexually assaulted by Rudy Giuliani backstage after he spoke on January 6 and incited an insurrection. He's also being sued by a former female employee who accuses him of wage theft and rape. This year, the Washington, D.C. bar and the New York State bar stripped him of his law licenses because of his role in attempting to steal the 2020 presidential election. So, I think Hillary was being polite 8 years ago when she called you and your supporters
Deplorables!
Yes, you're pretty deplorable. Speaking of deplorables, here is stockbroker Howard Lutnick, the head of Trump's transition team. This is the guy who's going to be populating the Trump administration. Here he is promising at Madison Square Garden yesterday that Trump will bring us back to the halcyon days of 1900 when everyone lived to the ripe old age of 32 if they were lucky because there was nobody inspecting our food and drugs.
We all say, make America great again. But let's just go over for a minute what that means, because we all say it as a slogan. When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax. And all we had was tariffs.
Except for the fact that they're going to get us all killed, it's pretty funny. Willfully ignorant is deplorable. Exploiting stupidity is deplorable. Here is Donald Trump over the weekend appearing at State College, Pennsylvania, telling college students that he's going to eliminate the income tax and replace the shortfall by imposing tariffs on foreign nations. Conservative think tanks like the Cato Institute and American Enterprise all say Trump tariffs would amount to a $4 trillion sales tax to be paid by American consumers over the next decade, and it wouldn't come close to paying the federal government's obligations.
Tariffs, taxes, not on you, by the way. The taxes are on you. Taxes are on other countries that have been ripping us off for years.
In front of college students, he's telling college students, tariffs are paid by the countries who get the tariffs imposed upon. It is willfully ignorant. It's a lie, and Donald Trump knows it's a lie. Here he is in Michigan over the weekend telling lies about Democrats.
Oh, they lie so much. They lie. They lie so much.
Yeah, they lie so much. Trump says basically everything our side accuses him of is a confession.
Every commercial she does about me, it's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite. We're the ones who raped E. Jean Carroll, defrauded lenders, ripped them off for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. We're the ones who racked up $8 trillion in debt when we were president. 1/3 of our national debt when he left office had been racked up by Trump. We're the ones who led an insurrection. Okay, Donald, you're a liar. You're lying about tariffs. Tariffs are paid by American consumers as a sales tax. But what is Kamala Harris lying about? Let's talk about the important issues.
They lie so much. How about McDonald's? I worked so hard at McDonald's. She didn't work at McDonald's.
Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of that. We need a special counsel to look into whether or not Kamala Harris really worked at McDonald's when she was working her way through law school. Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe got canceled 3 years ago after he was caught on tape making incessant anti-Asian slurs that were directed at a comedian who was introducing him. He got canceled. And by canceled, Tony's doing 2 new specials for Netflix and has one of the most popular podcasts in America. You know, this cancel culture is really destroying careers. But Tony learned the lesson from 3 years ago. Opening for Donald Trump at Madison Square Garden yesterday, he left the Asians alone.
Going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
Or the news. You also don't follow the news. Otherwise, Tony would have known that Donald Trump left Puerto Rico to die back in 2017. But it's just a joke, Tony. Jokes don't reveal anything about your character. Sigmund Freud never said jokes are rooted in truth. He never said they reveal your subconscious. Hurricane Maria killed 3,000 Puerto Ricans, and Trump refused help from neighboring island countries for fear of humiliation. He found it humiliating that other countries were offering to help Puerto Rico. It was the deadliest natural disaster to hit the United States in more than 100 years. But Puerto Rico, it's a colony. It doesn't vote in presidential elections. Or should I say the people don't vote in presidential elections. So Trump pretty much left them to die. He showed up with paper towels. Remember that? He just literally tossed paper towels at these citizens of America who can't vote, tossed them towels, and then he flew off, never to return, because who cares? They don't vote. Trump refused to send his FEMA director to Puerto Rico, keeping him in Texas, still recovering from Hurricane Harvey, which hit a month earlier. But you see, Texas, here's the deal. Texas was already up and running after Hurricane Harvey. They got after Hurricane Harvey, within weeks, Houston was back up on its feet. And by the time Maria hit, the FEMA director was free to go to Puerto Rico, which was in desperate need of help. But Trump didn't care because Texas votes and Puerto Rico doesn't. And Trump said, you stay in Texas. Within 1 year after Maria, Puerto Rico's power was still not on, and FEMA rejected 3/4 of the applications for financial assistance in repairing damages to homes. It took the Biden administration to finally bring help to the people of Puerto Rico. I have nothing against tasteless jokes, but there's a time and a place for Tony Hinchcliffe's humor. 1933 Berlin. Here is Vice President Kamala Harris and Kalamazoo. Actually, I think it was Michelle Obama who did that joke. Kalamazoo. She was in Kalamazoo, Michigan over the weekend. Here is the vice president talking about Donald Trump and how people think he and Tony Hinchcliffe are just kidding.
I do believe Donald Trump to be an unserious man. But the consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious.
Trump and his Republicans, well, they use comedy to disguise their intent. Humor for them is a way to explain away their bigotry and stupidity. It's a joke until it's not a joke. First it's a joke, then it's not a joke. Here is Donald Trump at the height of the COVID epidemic back in 2020. You might remember the country was dying, and he had no idea how to mobilize our government. It was the worst response in sheer numbers and per capita in the industrialized world. Now, you all remember this, but I'm going to play it. And then on the other side of this, I'll explain why I'm playing it and what it has to do with how Republicans like Trump exploit comedy. Do you think he's being sarcastic? I'm about to play this. You tell me if he's being sarcastic. He later insisted he was being sarcastic. Listen, and you tell me if he was joking around.
I'm going to ask Bill a question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do, either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
The right folks who could.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Now, do you think he was joking around? Was he being sarcastic? I don't have the wide shot of Deborah Birx, Dr. Deborah Birx, bearing her head into her Hermes scarf out of embarrassment. You all remember this. Trump was asking his team of COVID advisors in public. He had turned to them. He was asking his team of COVID advisors in public what he had just asked them minutes ago in private. And he was asking, suppose we kill the virus by injecting people with COVID with disinfectant, bleach. It goes down in history as the dumbest thing ever uttered by anyone, let alone a president of the United States in the middle of a pandemic. The next day, attempting to perform damage control, Donald Trump spoke to reporters in the Oval Office and insisted, when he talked about injecting disinfectant into COVID patients, he said he was joking around. He was just being sarcastic.
Clarify your comments about injections of disinfectant.
No, I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen. Now, disinfectant for doing this, maybe on the hands, would work. And I was asking the question of the gentleman who was there yesterday, Bill, because when they say that something will last 3 or 4 hours or 6 hours, but if the sun is out or if they use disinfectant, it goes away in less than a minute. Did you hear about this yesterday? But I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
That's not a weave. That's just insanity. Watch what's going on here. Watch what's going on. Trump knows that publicly asking doctors about injecting disinfectant into COVID patients automatically disqualifies him from holding higher office. But because he thinks everyone is as stupid as he is, he insists, oh, I was just being sarcastic, while at the same time making the case for injecting disinfectants into COVID patients. He says in the same paragraph that he was being sarcastic. I was joking around. In the same paragraph, he also says he genuinely thinks it's a good idea to inject COVID patients with disinfectant, and did in fact ask the doctors to look into the benefits of injecting COVID patients with disinfectant. Watch him. He can't even pull this off. This is how he hides behind humor, sarcasm, to try to disguise his stupidity. What happened? Why isn't that playing? What about my stupidity? Let's try that again. Come on. You can do it.
Clarify your comments about injections of disinfectant. They're quite...
No, I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen. Now, disinfectant for doing this, maybe on the hands, would work. And I was asking the question of the gentleman who was there yesterday, Bill, because when they say that something will last 3 or 4 hours or 6 hours, but if the sun is out or if they use disinfectant, it goes away in less than a minute. Did you hear about this yesterday? But I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
Okay, go ahead, Tony Hinchcliffe. Give us some of that state-of-the-art, cutting-edge humor that pushes the boundaries of free speech.
Heck yeah, this cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding, that's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun, we carved watermelons together. It was awesome.
We carved watermelons together. Wow. The kids today, with their biting, mordant wit. By the way, you see that? That's an ivermectin ad to his left. I'm looking at some right-wing news organization that's being sued or has been sued by Dominion and Smartmatic. Yeah. It's just a joke, Tony, making fun of black people, Puerto Ricans, gay people. There are no real-world consequences to jokes, right? It doesn't reveal anything about who you are. Right, Donald Trump?
We become like a garbage can for the rest of the world. They're throwing all their garbage into our country. And we're not taking it, and they know we're not taking it. They don't want me to win this election, that I can tell you, because we live with these people and we'll get killed by these people. These are dangerous people. These are really dangerous people. There's nothing you're going to do about it to make them less dangerous.
Who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? He's saying they're genetically dangerous and there's nothing you can do about it. Who's he talking about? People of color. People of color. He's on tape saying, why can't we ever get immigrants from nice countries like Denmark? That's what he says. He does not want people of color coming to America, but it's just a joke. It's just a joke. This is the mop-up for October 28th, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please go to shopdavidfeldman.com and check out the merchandise we have. This fantastic cup. It's the worst case scenario mug. Pick it up. Anyway, I need to go into a coma. I really do. I just want to wake up 2 weeks from now and just tell me what I have to do 2 weeks from now. Just give me marching orders 2 weeks from now. Campaigning in Pennsylvania over the weekend, President Joe Biden reminded voters that Elon Musk, born in South Africa, was an illegal alien who violated the law.
And his new the wealthiest man in the world is now his ally, right? Well, that wealthiest man in the world turned out to be a legal worker here when he was here. Oh, I'm serious. He was supposed to be in school when he came on a student visa. He wasn't in school. He was violating the law. He's talking about all these illegals coming our way.
President Biden was picking up on a story in this weekend's Washington Post. Headline, exclusive, Elon Musk, enemy of open borders, launched his career working illegally. Investors in Musk's first company worried about our founder being deported and gave him a deadline for obtaining a work visa. Isn't that nice? The Washington Post says on Saturday that Elon Musk was in America on a student visa, but really never went to school. He quit school to create a startup company without getting the proper documents from our government. According to the Washington Post, Musk came to America promising immigration, that he was going to do graduate work at Stanford, but according to the Post, he never even enrolled at Stanford. Instead, he immediately got to work on this new company, which is in direct violation of American immigration laws. This became a serious problem for investors who, according to the Post, were concerned that they were pouring money into a company headed by someone on a student visa instead of a work visa. Musk now claims he never broke the law, but according to the Washington Post in 2005, Musk wrote in an email that he did not have authorization to be in the United States. Well, let's throw him out. Let's throw him out. He is one of the leading champions of the new election lie that illegals are voting in Pennsylvania. He is promoting the lie that Joe Biden is busing illegal immigrants into Wisconsin, Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania so they will vote for Kamala Harris. I say we throw him out of the country. Appearing in Kalamazoo, Michigan, former First Lady Michelle Obama made the case against Donald Trump. She really is Kamala Harris's not-so-secret weapon. My mother loved Michelle Obama. Here's one of the reasons.
This was just the tragic exclamation point on his disastrous presidency. Installing judges and justices who have now stripped away our reproductive freedoms. Cracking down on protesters marching to protect their sons from being shot because of the color of their skin. Rolling back protections for LGBTQ Americans. Banning conspiracy theories, unleashing hatred in our communities. And then, when the American people fired him from a job that was too big for him to begin with, he tried to steal it, egging on a violent mob that breached our nation's capital. And when told that his own vice president was in danger, you know what he said? So what? So what, y'all? He said, so what?
Then again, I'm sure Joe Biden probably said the same thing about your husband over the summer. I think, I don't know if that's, anyway. But that's ancient history, just like Joe Biden, who I love. I'm going to miss Joe Biden. He told the crowd in Pennsylvania over the weekend what he honestly thinks of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is a loser. A loser. He's a loser as a candidate. And more importantly, in my view, and I'm just going to say it straight up, he's a loser as a man.
Speaking to voters in Phoenix, Arizona, Coach Walsh made it clear he's sick of Trump and the Republicans portraying themselves as wholesome Americans.
And I'll be damned if Donald Trump will lecture me on what family values are. We took the flag, we took freedom, we took family values, and this one, for me personally, I'm taking football back from them. So there you go. We're going.
Are you nervous? Are you scared? Well, there's a lot of money in keeping you terrified for the next week. Here's Kristen Welker, the host of NBC's Meet the Press Sunday, earning her salary. Here she is, the host of Meet the Press, assuring us, yes, you definitely need to be scared, and you need to plant yourself in front of your television all day on November 5th and watch MSNBC and NBC, maybe even spring for a subscription for Peacock so you can live stream our new hub, our new Election Day hub. Peacock, NBC, they're pouring millions and millions and millions into this election hub so you can watch 5 NBC news feeds at one time. There's going to be a Steve Kornacki cam where you can watch Steve Kornacki going over data. So here is Steve Kornacki earning his salary because a lot of money is riding on next Tuesday.
Steve, this race is incredibly tight in the home stretch.
Well, actually, it's not, unless you want to cherry pick some unreliable polls. But if you pick some unreliable polls, you can keep people interested. But Harris is winning. Here we go. Let me show you what's going on here. I did this a little on Saturday's show, but this is the Washington Post, which is very stringent in its polling averages. It has a very transparent methodology. They will not bring crap polls into their averages, okay? So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 polls since October 8th. Okay? 13 polls. Here's one poll from the Wall Street Journal that shows Trump beating Harris by 2. Here's one from CNBC showing Harris losing by 2. And Fox News, their poll shows Harris losing by 2. Out of 13 polls, A-plus polls, 3 show Trump winning. Now remember, she only has to win the blue wall. That gets her to 270. What about the blue wall? Well, Harris is leading in the blue wall. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These are the most reliable polling averages, okay? Take a look at, I'll go from the bottom. Michigan, she's up 2. And the shift that they keep talking about, they always talk about the shift now to scare us. Well, the shift is she's up 0.3 of a point since last week in Michigan. Let's go to Wisconsin. Harris is leading Wisconsin by 2 percentage points, but the shift, Trump has shifted. He's gained 0.2 of a percentage point. So you must watch NBC News and be scared. Pennsylvania, Harris is leading by 1 point, but Donald Trump has shifted. He's growing. He's up 0.2 of a percentage point. But go ahead, Steve Kornacki, find the only reliable polling that shows that it's a horse race. Because I just showed you reliable A-plus polls. As I said, let me show them again to you because it's important. As I said on the last show, since 2020, Republicans have created a morass of partisan, unreliable polling units that contaminate the polling averages in order to create the illusion that Trump is more popular than he actually is. What the Washington Post does is they filter out the garbage. These are the real polling averages. But, okay, go ahead, Steve Kornacki, find the only 4 polls that show the national race either tied or Trump winning. So we'll pay attention to you instead of the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely, Kristen. One thing we have noticed in the last couple of days, this is not all of the polls that are out there now, but we have seen a number, 4 in the last 4 days.
Yes, 4. We looked really hard. Go ahead, Steve Kornacki, talk in confusing jargon normally reserved for meteorologists right before a Category 5 hits land. Scare us, please.
4 in the last 4 days that have shown very small, but in the context of this close race, potentially meaningful movement in Trump's direction. I don't want to overstate it, but at the same time, I have to overstate it because we've invested millions and millions to make sure you're going to watch. So, Steve, maybe you can
put this all into context for us, I notice you're not wearing a jacket. That must mean you're a serious numbers guy.
Put this in some context. Here is our current national polling average. Let me call that up on the screen for you right here. Harris continues to lead nationally. I want to stress that, but we've been tracking this every week on the air here. A couple weeks ago, this number was at 3 for Kamala Harris.
Yes, we've been tracking it for weeks like it's a Category 5 hurricane, and it's Trump is up 0.2 of a point. We have spent millions on the election hub, and if I don't get you people to watch on Tuesday, it'll be really hard for me to renegotiate my contract with MSNBC. Again, there are 2 polls that he shows us. 2 polls showing Trump ahead and 2 showing a tie. The rest of the polls show Harris winning. But Steve Kornacki finds it impossible to ignore these 2 polls that show Trump ahead. It's impossible. It's impossible to ignore. Okay, Steve. The polling averages now have Harris leading by 2. Her ceiling in the averages is 50. Trump's ceiling is just 47, but go ahead.
Put this in some context. Here is our current national polling average. Let me call that up on the screen for you right here. Harris continues to lead nationally. I want to stress that, but we've been tracking this every week on the air here.
Okay, so let me just show you the polling averages, the movement, the Hurricane 5, the Category 5 hurricane. This is Michigan, okay? These are the polling averages. See that? July 21st, Joe Biden drops out. Trump is clearly in the lead. Then around late July, mid-August, it's Harris taking the lead, and she has stayed in the lead in Michigan. No movement, nothing. She's up 2 points in Michigan. She's been there ever since basically Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Let's look at Wisconsin, okay? Here we see Joe Biden drops out. She immediately takes the lead in Wisconsin and has been there ever since. She's now leading by 2. There's a little bump, right, in the middle of October, right, where Trump gains a point. Let's look at Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania polling averages, okay? Biden drops out. She immediately goes into the lead, and she's up by 1%, okay? Look at these again. Look at this. Pay attention. These are the polling averages, good polling averages. Okay? All right. But because it's television, Steve doesn't tell us how he arrives at his polling averages. He doesn't need transparency. He doesn't need to tell us about his methodology. He offers no transparency as to how many below A+ polls are included in his averages. And because there's so much money riding on people paying attention to NBC this week, he no doubt tosses in a few high-profile polls that have a bad track record but seem legitimate. You know, toss in a few crappy polls to make it interesting. That way, we have a real horse race. That's what he's doing. That's what people who are in the business of getting eyeballs are doing. The Washington Post is not corrupting its data with shoddy polling. But even so, look at how Kamala Harris is doing in the blue wall, according to Steve Kornacki, with his contaminated polling averages. She's leading Trump by 0.6 of a percentage point in Michigan. Now, the more accurate Washington Post averages have her up by 2. She's leading Trump by 0.9 of a percentage point, according to Steve Kornacki in Wisconsin. The more accurate Washington Post polling averages have her up by 2. And in must-win Pennsylvania, Steve Kornacki has Kamala Harris leading by 0.6 of a percentage point, while the more reliable Washington Post averages have her up by 1. Are you nervous? Are you nervous? But forget the fact that Kamala Harris is leading in the national polls and in the blue wall. She's a woman. She's a woman. And if memory serves, so was Hillary Clinton. People didn't like Hillary Clinton. And now Steve Kornacki is saying that Harris, just like Hillary, is beginning to show signs of unlikability. And nobody gets elected if they're an unlikable woman. Please, Steve Kornacki, keep us up at night.
I can show you from the CNBC poll. They picked up on something that our own NBC poll was suggesting recently, and that is a shift in the image of Kamala Harris. You can see right now in the CNBC poll, 42 positive, 48 negative, higher negative than positive. That's where Trump is too, largely, 39, 49. The significance is about a month ago when we were polling this, Harris had a higher positive than negative. In our poll, in the CNBC poll, in other polls out there right now, you see Harris now with that negative going back above that positive rating.
This is how you get to work for NBC News. Good on you, Steve Kornacki, creating a horse race where there is none. Actually, Steve, okay, what I see there is Trump's 10% underwater. Donald Trump is 10% underwater, and Kamala Harris is 6% underwater. Who has the likability problem? Not the woman. Doesn't look like the woman is the one with the likability problem. And by the way, in today's climate, where everyone in Washington, including the media and Steve Kornacki and Meet the Press, is despised, being 6% underwater is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And more importantly, Steve Kornacki, one of the key fundamentals in forecasting elections is approval ratings. Trump, in case you can't do the math, is 10% underwater. You cannot win an election, okay, when your opponent has a likability advantage outside the margin of error. You see, take a screenshot and do the math. Donald Trump's positive is 39%. His negative is 49%. He is 10% underwater. That is dreadful. But somehow, Kamala Harris, who's 6% underwater, she's got a likability problem. Interesting. It's amazing that Steve Kornacki over at MSNBC could talk about Kamala Harris's likability problem. Would you like her to smile more, Steve? When he's talking about Kamala Harris's likability, when Donald Trump's likability problem is manifestly larger. Maybe she needs to change her tone of voice. Would that help? Here is former First Lady Michelle Obama in Kalamazoo, Michigan, talking about the double standard still baked into our politics when it comes to women.
So I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse, all of this while we pick apart Kamala's answers from interviews that he doesn't even have the courage to do, y'all.
Black women are told by their mothers they have to be twice as good as everyone else in order to get ahead. Given how tight this race is, apparently they have to be 1,000,000 times better to succeed. Kamala Harris is 1,000,000 times better than Donald Trump in all categories. Here is Michelle Obama, who, like her husband, is also 1,000,000 times better than Donald Trump. Here is Michelle Obama talking about the double standard, not just in American politics, but America writ large.
This choice isn't even close. But whether it's online or in the media or in our social circles, there are folks who say they're not sure about Kamala. They accuse her of not providing enough policy detail. Some wonder, do we really know her? Is she too aggressive? Is she not aggressive enough? There are folks sowing seeds of doubt about whether she's who she appears to be. Now, don't get me wrong. Voters have every right to ask hard questions of any candidate seeking office. But can someone tell me why we are once again holding Kamala to a higher standard than her opponent? We expect her to be intelligent and articulate, to have a clear set of policies, to never show too much anger, to prove time and time again that she belongs. But for Trump, we expect nothing at all. No understanding of policy, no ability to put together a coherent argument, no honesty, no decency, no morals. Instead, too many people are willing to write off his childish, mean-spirited antics by saying, well, Trump's just being Trump. Rather than question his horrible behavior, some folks think he's funny. And if you remember, that's exactly how he got elected the first time. Folks gave him a pass and rolled the dice, betting that he couldn't possibly be that bad. And then there were those folks who didn't think it really mattered who the president was, if you can believe that. And still others who thought it'd be a good idea just to blow up our entire democracy. Let us not forget how badly that worked out for all of us. Let us not forget the incompetence and the corruption, the chaos that was the cornerstone of his entire 4 years in office. Let's start with the pandemic. Remember how woefully unprepared he was? How he was sowing seeds of fear and confusion, endangering lives with his lies and ignorance, denigrating the doctors and scientists trying to help us. You want to talk about plans? Well, my husband left him a very detailed pandemic plan. And you know what he did? He ignored it. He had no clue how to get us out of that crisis. No ability to bring back the millions of jobs we lost so suddenly. No idea how to get our students back into school safely. No attempt to help stem the epidemic of loneliness and isolation that too many of our young people are still dealing with. And his failures had real costs.
Yes, yes. How you run a campaign is a leading indicator of how you're going to govern. Trump is working with nobody. He doesn't want to be beholden to anyone. Where was Nikki Haley? Was she there at Madison Square Garden yesterday? I didn't see her. Did she speak? I didn't hear her. The most loathsome people spoke at Madison Square Garden. How you run your campaign is a leading indicator of how you're going to govern. Hundreds of millions of dollars donated to Donald Trump are unaccounted for. And he's relying on one billionaire, Elon Musk, to pay for his ground game. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris has been running a meticulously flawless campaign, which some of us take for granted. Here is Michelle Obama reminding us why Vice President Harris's campaign is truly remarkable.
I mean, think about it. No one could have predicted the way everything would have unfolded this summer. And yet, in a critical moment when our country needed her, Kamala couldn't have been more prepared to meet that moment. And she's met it every single day since. A way we haven't seen for years. She's building a remarkable campaign in record time, dominating her opponent so thoroughly in the debate, he was too scared to face her again.
Like I said, this election will be decided by suburban women in the key battleground states. If more women turn out than men, then we're looking at a once-in-a-generation tectonic shift in the plates that make up our electoral map. This election will be won by women, suburban women, in the key swing states. There is a new CBS poll out asking likely voters if they think gender equality efforts have gone too far or not too far enough. Now remember, elections are won on the margins. Take a look at the 2-point advantage that Kamala Harris has over Donald Trump. Look at this, okay? When you poll likely Trump voters, 84% of them say gender equality in America has gone too far. But when you poll Harris voters, 86% say it hasn't gone far enough. That's a 2-point differential. Okay? There's a gender gap. 2 points is huge. Here, as I said, this election will be won by women, suburban women, in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Women. Here is a woman, CBS anchor Norah O'Donnell, asking Liz Cheney, a woman, a question that has never been asked before in modern American politics.
Given how outspoken you have been, concerned about your personal security if Donald Trump wins this election, as he well may do?
Liz Cheney asked, are you concerned about your personal security if Donald Trump wins? Cheney didn't say she wasn't scared. Instead, she kind of dodged the question. This has never happened before in modern American politics.
I think that Donald Trump has ushered violence into our politics in a way that we haven't seen before. Any violence is unacceptable. Certainly the assassination attempt on the former president was completely unacceptable and obviously should never have happened. But when you have a situation where, Donald Trump suggests that people who disagree with him ought to be put before military tribunals, that the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff should be hanged for treason, and his running mate, doubles down on it. I think that tells you that you're dealing with a man who doesn't have any conscience, and the people who worked most closely with him know that. And so I'm confident that he's going to be defeated next week.
Here's Donald Trump in Michigan insisting it's Liz Cheney, not Donald Trump, who is the violent one. Trump warns that Cheney wants to bring back the draft because she's a war hawk.
She'd love a draft. All she wants is war. The reason I don't get along with her is because she wanted to invade every damn country that she looked at.
You're a pacifist. It's so obvious. Last week, Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post, killed a Washington Post editorial endorsing Kamala Harris out of fear Trump would win and then exact revenge by using his executive branch to deny Bezos lucrative government contracts. Speaking at the New Yorker Festival over the weekend, Liz Cheney called Bezos a coward. She said, quote, "It's fear. When you have Jeff Bezos apparently afraid to issue an endorsement for the only candidate in the race who's a stable, responsible adult because he fears Donald Trump, that tells you why we have to work so hard to make sure that Donald Trump isn't elected." Here is Donald Trump in Michigan over the weekend offering up a sober, rational explanation for why he disagrees with Liz Cheney.
She's a dope, like her father's a dope.
Here you see hundreds of Trump supporters walking out of his Traverse City, Michigan rally Friday night after he kept them waiting 3 hours. When Trump took the stage, he apologized for keeping them waiting, but explained it was necessary. I was taping a podcast with Joe Rogan. Why was he taping a podcast with Joe Rogan? Because Trump is going all in on the frustration of white men. Men who can't get laid, can't find work, can't pay their bills because society is changing and they refuse to change with it. These really are the same exact incels who Steve Bannon tapped into back in 2016. Angry men, angry white men who are involuntarily celibate. Women have something they want, but they won't give it to them, so they hate women. Millions of white men in this country lack the vocabulary for introspection and accountability. They find themselves, sadly, increasingly isolated and angry. They are rageaholics who self-medicate from the adrenaline that pumps when you experience the thrill of sadism and hatred. Millions of American men want to see it all come crashing down because they're no longer a part of it. They really don't want to be a part of it. They refuse to grow. Speaking in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Michelle Obama talked to those men. She reminded them they have sisters and mothers. Maybe even some have daughters and wives.
But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. Prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety?
My mother, who passed away 2 years ago, loved Michelle Obama. And whenever I would say, I'm angry, she would say, you're angry. You're angry. And what she meant was, imagine how angry Michelle Obama is, Kamala Harris is. I still hear that voice when I'm in a rage. You're angry. You're angry. Well, it comes down to women saving this country. That's the truth. Women have to vote. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. Please like this episode so I remain in your feed, and please share it. The only reason I have an audience is because my listeners have been generous enough with their time to watch this and share it. So please share it and go to Shop David Feldman and buy worthless crap you don't need, like the worst case scenario map showing that Kamala Harris just needs to win the blue wall and it gets her to 270. Check out my Halloween collection. This is pretty scary. It's the 2029 inaugural ball with Melania and Donald about to have their first dance. They look very happy. Donald Trump has 30 credible sexual assault allegations against him. You might want to pick up a Predator cup. And for Thanksgiving, you're going to want to make peace with your MAGA moron friends. Pick up a MAGA cap, and they can't read, so on the back, they won't notice it says low IQ individual. This is my favorite. It's Donald Trump in Edvard Munch's The Scream. It's a beautiful cup. And if you want to hurt me, like most of the people who shop at my store, pick up the Hope You're in the Mood for Diarrhea Chef's Apron. It just reminds me, this is a cold, bracing slap in the face when I look at what people are buying and I see they're just, most of them are buying the Hope You're in the Mood for Diarrhea Chef's Apron. Mr. I look at the polls and I read periodicals. Hope you're in the mood for diarrhea. That's all right. Unless you can go into a medically induced coma and wake up 2 weeks from today, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. She is going to win, and it will be a tragedy not to have her and Coach Waltz. I mean, it really is the choice between a bright future and Nazi Germany. That is the choice. So, expect the worst, but she's going to win. Okay. I am doing this with white knuckles. I don't drink. I don't take pills. I don't smoke dope. I have never craved, what was it, Propanol? What was Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson used to do those medically induced, was it Propanol? Hey, if I get a colonoscopy, they put you under. I got to go get a colonoscopy. I'll see everybody early when? Today's Monday, so it will be early. I'm going to take tomorrow off, and I'll be back at Tooth Hurdy in 48 hours. Thank you for watching. Be nice to yourself, and do something nice for somebody else, and you'll feel better. And vote. All right. Bye.